qualification, certification to do repairs on fire escapes, and there are certain level of repairs. I think there's 3 that you have in your program. Is that right, Cisco?
Yeah, I gave a sheet.
Okay, we'll go through that. So it's about 3 levels of those. So basically, we may not even want to write the violation that says paint and scrape. We don't want to use that no more. We want to say repair.
Repair, paint.
Yeah, and then you would tell them once they contact you and figure out what level of repair, then this would give you some information on what type of violation you're going to write for what level of repair you want done to fire escapes. Fire escapes are very dangerous. People that's been around here for a while know that we have lost firefighters. They have lost their lives fighting fires when they get up on a fire escape and that whole thing collapses and come down from the wall. And you have no idea how heavy that thing is once it starts to come down. So we done lost a couple of firefighters fighting fires on fire escapes. So they're dangerous not only for the people that got to use them in case there's an emergency coming out of that building, but if there's a fire in that building, the firefighters have to use those fire escapes. They're dangerous also. So this is a serious course, and we've had some of it earlier. So this is the kind of refresher course. Cisco has some new information. He's already given it to the inspectors up there in East Orange. So I asked him to come back and give it to us again, and probably later on we'll set it up so we can do it for field units also. But we're going to try to do it right here. I know it's a little tight, but we're going to try to work within the confines of this office. You might need a chair, Jimmy, if you want to roll down there.
No.
Yeah, stand
So,
okay, so go ahead.
Chief Suit is correct. 2 people that are going to use this fire escape: occupants and firefighters, right? So let's start off with the first one. Let's really talk about the occupants.
Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders,
This happened
rolling
in
up the
Bridgeport
hoses.
last
But
year,
earlier
2
tonight,
weeks
when they
ago.
pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building.
It was a dark shot
Firefighters say
anyway,
it was
so
one of the scarier moments because when you
just
pull up to a
listen to the
building
story.
and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
Well, about 50 people were displaced inside this building. However, firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in except the one unit where the fire was in. They said that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him, but the fire escape that broke underneath him. And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes, rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken, and what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So then over here, for months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Right.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one, a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files.
But there's no fire escape certification.
To see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the Director of Inspectional Services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe? Or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville, 4 more fire escapes,
Did it fall through the cracks?
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track. How can they get away?
Well, I guess the short is into the wallet because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Westport, there are more than 8,000 fire escapes. Again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.
You just turn on one light, the one. Yeah. that's-
Farscape Services.
So
Provide inspection.
So here we have a class that we're going to be teaching, and we teach this class nationwide, from here to Seattle, Chicago to Corpus Christi. We've taught this very same class. We record it. We're recording it now, and we'll put it up online. So there's about 20 inspection seminars like this that you can just watch. So this one we're going to try to capture as much as we can. We have one that we did in East Orange. We just did one yesterday, 3 days ago in Springfield, Illinois. And so we have a lot of these classes available for you to utilize to know exactly what you're looking for. The main thing is we're going to keep you off the fire escapes because that just proved that the first video said that who's getting stuck on fire escapes? The occupant, right? Now, how can you get to a building, to a structure with 50 people living in it, and they're stuck on a fire escape? This doesn't make any sense. The only way you can get stuck on a fire escape is that something's not working. So the only way they can get down is either the ladders have to come down or the cantilevers coming down. So these firefighters showed up at a big complex, and that complex didn't look, that's Bridgeport, Connecticut. Did that look any different than the complexes you have here?
No.
Same exact complexes, but they got there, and instead of fighting the fire right off the bat, what was their first priority? For minutes, and that they wasted, and every minute just keeps cooking the building. But they were trying to get people off the fire escape. Fire escape is supposed to be for self-evacuation. You get off the thing yourself. You don't wait for firemen to come and hold your hand and take you down. So if the ladder's not working properly, the cantilever's not working properly, you got a building that's a life safety issue. Wasn't that a life safety issue? 50 people. And when you listen to the story again, it's some people on this fire escape, some people on that fire escape. On the other building across the way that had no fire, but people were jumping on their fire escapes because they had so much smoke. So all of a sudden they had, all their manpower was used to get people off, go get the ladders off the truck. Dude, there's ladders on the fire escape that are supposed to come down. It showed a hanging child. You see an 8-year-old child? Imagine you're a child hanging on a ladder that doesn't want to come down because the balance is out of balance. It won't come down. So we want to talk about today, and we're going to go into the class that we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about just what power do you have in your very code. So if everybody was just to grab this sheet, if you don't have one, there's more sheets here. So if anybody's missing, they're right here.
I don't have any.
Yeah. You can just hand them one of these packs. But if everybody can grab one of the sheets, and let's just use this. Let me show you just what the power of the law is that you already have. So there's really no need for enforcing to write new laws, because there's a few things that we need to do in 2012 that we're changing the fire code to add a little bit more teeth to it. And from our efforts, we've been doing this for over 5 years. Chief knows us that we've been here before. The first state to crack, believe it or not, Portland, Oregon. Everything that I'm about to talk to you today, they've implemented it. Their fire department stepped up onto this, and now they made it a state code change. And they added signage, they added load testing, they added confidence testing. So let's just read what your code says, and if the code has changed, let me know. But I believe your code says all exit discharges, exits, exterior stairways. So all exit discharges. Have I talked about fire escapes yet?
Yeah.
All exit discharges. Fire escapes are those iron things. So all exit discharges. Does that mean every stairway that's exposed to the weather? Every stairway that's outside the house, every wooden stairway, every cement stairway, everything. I haven't even talked about fire escape, right? Exterior stairways. So every exit stairway, every exterior stairway is subject to your code. And fire escapes. See, they mentioned fire escapes a lot. Everybody thinks this code is for the fire escape. It's not. This code is for every exit discharge. So that means balconies, bridges, anything that Romeo and Juliet balconies, anything that's an exit discharge that a fireman would arrive, put up his ladder against it, and discharge you from there. Every exit discharge. But let's just focus on fire escapes for this thing. Shall be kept free of snow and ice. Any fire escape or exterior stairway found to be in a state of deterioration or determined to be unsafe by the fire official shall be repaired immediately. Now here's the critical part that gives you all the power. Depending upon the structural condition, a load test, the word load there means load test, of any fire escape shall be conducted before the fire escape is returned to service in accordance with the code. Now, depending upon the structural condition, who determines the structural condition? The inspector, because you wrote the violation, so you said this doesn't look good to me. So you need to be convinced that the fire escape was repaired properly. You need some evidence. Somebody's going to go out of their way to prove to you. Because if you're not convinced of the structural condition, what will you order if you have the least amount of fear or the least amount of doubt about what they did? If they just slapped some paint on a rusty fire escape. Well, they'll find you. They'll buy a piece of paper that says certification. But you get there after you've got Joe Engineer gave you a piece of paper that says it's structurally sound and satisfactory. And then you walked back there and there was still gobs of rust, gussets blown out, there was all kinds of... The guy just literally threw a piece of paper and then he bought a piece of paper from a structural engineer, because you can buy paper today, can't you? Can I convince an engineer to give me a piece of paper for $300 to $500?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so depending on the structural condition, that means you wrote the violation, you're going to be the one that's going to go there and look at it and you're like, you know what? This doesn't look good to me. Can you order, based on the code, can you order a load test? Even though they gave you a structural engineer letter that says it's satisfactory. So this is how strong the code is. It says that every one of these inspectors has the power to order a load test if they're not satisfactory. If there's, I'll just read it. Depending on the structural condition. Depending upon the structural condition. It keeps coming back to you. So whenever you have a fire escape inspected and the fire escape has a problem, how many of you have received a report from an engineer and he's called you to discuss the findings? He's called you and shared the photographs with you. He's met you at the site to tell you what the problem is there. No. So because of that, what's happening is this depending upon structural condition is sort of being answered by a piece of paper that you can go to Walmart and just buy it. You know, I need an engineer letter, and you just buy it at Walmart and you bring it down to your throat, because you guys are just going to take it and throw it into a folder because your job is done. You say, I just need a piece of paper. But in actuality, you're supposed to be checking not only that piece of paper, you're supposed to be doing a final visit on that job, right? So when you go back to remove the violation because you got the piece of paper and you do your final, when you go back and you see the fire escape was, the only thing that was done on it was just a paint job, you've got two parts here, depending on the structural condition, and yet the guy hands you that piece of paper that he bought from Charlie. You say, well, I want a load test now. Because does anybody know the permit requirements if you're gonna paint the fire escape? Do I need to pull a permit with building inspectors?
No.
No. If I repair a fire escape, do I need to pull a building permit?
No.
Yes, you do. You touch the structure, you touch any structure, you need to pull a permit. So, for 75 years, that's how long this has been going on. For 75 years, and I'm an iron worker, and I'm out there playing on a fire escape, and you show up and you catch me with my tools out and everything going on, what am I really doing? What's my first line of defense against you? What am I doing? I'm painting the fire escape. Oh, you're not changing, well, 1 or 2 bolts, that's it. I changed all the bolts, you know what I'm saying? I did a lot of work on it, but I'm not gonna tell you that. And then I can play dumb. I said, oh, I didn't know you needed a permit. No, I'm just painting it. The guy just had me paint it. Somebody else did all this work. So for 75 years, across the country, everybody's been fixing the fire escapes under a paint permit. And there is no such thing as a paint permit. Now, you've been helping out because what you guys have been writing, and I want you to write it on the back here, you guys have been writing scrape and paint violations. So let me tell you what a scrape and paint violation means to a 5-story building with a cantilever on the bottom that's been rotting for 50 years. The guy makes his first phone call that says, hey, I need a paint job on my fire escape, so they call Joe Painter. Joe Painter shows up on a 5-story and says, hey, how much to paint this fire escape? The guy walks it, looks at it, and eyeballs it and says, hey, I can paint it for about $3 grand. The guy says, oh, great. He goes, oh, by the way, there's a few loose treads and some heavy rust up there that you should get fixed before I paint it, just so that. The guy goes, oh, I'll have it looked at and have it checked out. So then he calls another guy, Bob the builder, Bob the ironworker. He comes down. He says, hey, there's a couple of loose treads up there, how much to fix it? So Bob, the ironworker, walks it, and he checks all the treads. He says, you don't got a couple of treads, you got the whole thing. All the treads are bad, you got huge rust. He goes, well, how much for a 5-story building? Oh, it's gonna be about 25 grand. Your cantilever's out of balance, and we got all the cement in the walls I have to do, a lot of work. And by the way, that includes a paint job, by the way, because I also painted. I'm a Bob the builder, I'm a guy. So he's got a violation from you. He's already got 2 quotes. One's for $2,500 and one's for $25,000. And your violation that said what? What did you say? Scrape it and paint it. So everybody on the back of this sheet, which is very important, write repair, paint, test. Isn't that what your code says? Repair it, paint it, test it. Think you're gonna get a phone call? When they look, they say, I got a violation from you. It says repair. They're gonna ask you, repair what? What do you tell them? Is it that broken tread or that loose bolt on the rail that you saw? Is that what you're gonna tell them to fix? Because you'll fix that, and just that. Do you have any authority to tell them what to fix?
Yes.
Well, you're telling you, the violation makes him repair it. Do you know, do you have to specify what he has to fix? You, the inspector.
No.
No. He has to call a structural engineer. His job is to call a structural engineer and have him determine not only what you saw originally as a bad situation, is there anything else? That engineer is supposed to call you and share some thoughts with you as to what he found. That engineer is supposed to use that report and give it to the ironworker, who then uses it to put a bid on the project. That engineer must oversee the job. So let's see if that makes sense, what we're looking to do. That's why we generated this document for you. And this is nothing but repairs and procedures guidelines. In your future, you'll be able to go to the nationalfirescapeassociation.org, and a lot of these videos that you see here are going to be there, and a lot of the documentation that we're sharing with you is going to be there. So this is an association that's going to be made up of building officials, fire officials, and housing inspectors, as well as vendors who are trying to fix fire escapes, engineers, architects. This is what we have to found the National Fire Escape Association, because a lot of this information wasn't getting out there, so it's going to be in the public eye right now under the National Fire Escape Association. Okay? So now let's just read, in case you write a violation and somebody calls you up, what do I do next? Let's see if you can just send them this sheet of paper. Just fax it over to them, or drop it over to them, and see, and this is what, because there's going to be 3 parts that they're going to do on that fire escape. They're going to inspect it, they're going to repair it, and they're going to paint it, correct? Because that's what you wrote. Repair, paint, test. So let's see what this means. And we generalize this to reflect what this verbiage means down here. So I'm just going to read it in general. In layman's terms, the city official, which is you guys, is looking for a qualified licensed inspector to do a critical inspection with inspection criteria submitted prior. So do you want to hear from this engineer? This is that qualification process. He's going to call, hey, I got a call in your city, I'm going to go inspect. Can I send you how I inspect? Is that good for you guys to hear from some of these inspectors? So you want to hear from Joe Inspector, so that he's not a Walmart inspector? You want to hear from this guy? That verifies and certifies that all the connections are free of internal rust or rot, as well as all original hardware, which is either the square head bolts or the rivets, are reinforced or replaced in lieu of a live load test. That makes sense, doesn't it? So if I got a 75-year-old bolt that's in good condition, what's the only way I can guarantee it back to you? By a load test. But is there anything cheaper? Because load test is a lot of money to move a lot of weight around. Well, I can replace it if it's faster or cheaper. Can I also leave that bolt there because the guy maybe loves his bolts and it's 75 years old and there's no rust in it and it's beautiful, it's holding that connection? Can I back it up with a bolt next to it? I can drill another hole anywhere near the steel that's marrying two pieces and I put a new bolt. Keep his old bolt, put a new bolt, but whatever's faster, because sometimes it'll take me 7 minutes to drill a new hole. It takes me 2 minutes to pop out his old bolt and put a brand new one. So it's ever cheaper to the client. Otherwise, the only other question he has on a 75-year-old fire escape with all these bolts, how do you guarantee a 75-year-old fire escape with old bolts and old rivets? Load test. That's all you got. So in lieu of a load test, you can reinforce or refurbish your fire escape. So your words are constantly going to be, are you going to give me a load test? You're going to start scaring a lot of people when you keep saying the word load test. They go, well, anything else I can do besides load test? He says, yeah, you can refurbish your 75-year-old dog there and put a new line in the sand. It's called, so in lieu of a load test, can I refurbish a fire escape and sidestep this load test thing? The answer is yes. So we're now going to keep talking today about how we have all these buildings in the East Coast that are 75 plus years old with these fire escapes. And that these scrape and paints that everybody's been doing for the longest time has been basically killing firemen because it's rusty connections that are letting these firemen fall. So right now we're saying though that this guy, this engineer is verifying to you that there is no rot in any of these connections. Right? So we're not going to paint over rust. This guy's saying no, there's no rust because he's got a confidence test, he's got a document that he has to sign that he's going to provide back to you that says, no, I've verified that there's no rot in that connection. All supports, through bolt or cemented, into the wall. Can you ever see those things? Is there any way to see this connection into the wall?
No.
Unless you have an x-ray, unless you spend a couple $100 with a mason to blow out some bricks and see what's going on, or somehow go inside the building, we'll take out the sheetrock and look at it from the inside. There's no way to verify this hidden connection. So, but that's his job, right? He must, these things must be verified and certified in lieu of a live load testing, right? So people sometimes will say, well, dude, that's buried in the wall. It only amounts to 3% of the fire escape. But how many roofs that have leaked over time have come down and eaten all the supports into the wall? And you don't know that, and that's what's dropped a lot of firemen to their death, is that the fire escape has hidden defects that the veneer on the outside is not showing, but yet the building over time in 75 years has leaked many times on the roof, and it has eaten the connection. So let me ask, we need to verify that, but it's a very costly exercise. Either I'm going to destroy some sheetrock on the inside and look for this thing, or I'm going to drill some holes on the outside, and I'll show you what holes look like on the outside to basically verify. I have to call a mason in to remove so many bricks around the connections. It's a very costly situation. Is there anything cheaper that we can do to eliminate the connection into the wall? And the answer is yes. Can I just give it another connection? Can I just duplicate it? With today's epoxy bolts, anybody know what an epoxy bolt is? It's basically a 3/4 rod that's 8 to 12 inches long. Hilti makes them. And basically you drill a hole in the wall, you fill it with glue in there, which is the epoxy, and you stick this rod in there. Now this rod glues itself to all the bricks inside, and you're usually about 5 inches away from the original connection, and then from this connection you go back with a clip. So you tie it to the epoxy bolt, you tie it back to the original connection, and you leave the cement that's there, you leave it alone, you let sleeping dogs lie. So if I duplicate the connection, and I keep the original, but I duplicate it with a brand new 3/4 epoxy bolt buried 8 to 12 inches deep into the wall, do I need now to verify the old connection anymore? Do I need to load test it if I've duplicated the connection? So as soon as you duplicate the connection into a wall, you don't need to load test it anymore. How about all the treads? If I change all the bolts on the treads, do I need to load test it? Once I change all the bolts?
No.
No. So we're starting to eliminate the things that says you want to perform a load test, it's very expensive. Otherwise, you can do some refurbishments, and you should have by now anyway. Because on average, wouldn't you expect to see a refurbishment of an exterior, metal, anything, on average every 25 years? You put anything outside, a fridge, a car, and you just leave it alone, you don't touch it, you don't do nothing, you never paint it. In 25 years, you're going to have to change some bolts, a door. I mean, I got AC units on top of buildings that they swap out every 15 years, every 20 years. How can a fire escape last 75 years untouched? It gets full of rust and full of connect. So it's this point that right now only 1%, 1 to 3% of all the fire escapes you're ever going to see are going to pass. 97 of them haven't been touched for 25 to 50 years. How do you expect them to pass? It's like going into a barn and trying to get an old car to start right off the bat. You know, just stick a key in and just, it's not. There's a bunch of things you're gonna have to do to refurbish it and bring it back. So we talked about the wall now. A fire escape confidence test and tag must be submitted if the fire escape passes. And that's that questionnaire, Chief, that I sent you. And it's a very long questionnaire asking you specific questions, specific to the engineer that says, no, there is no rust inside any of these connections. I verified that. The report with photos identifying violations for repairs must include repair criteria submitted to the official for repair vendor to use as a guide during engineer oversight of permitted repairs. So I stop dropping the word permitted in there. A fire escape confidence test and tags identifying certified conditions are then submitted. Recommended cycle for live load testing after you refurbish a fire escape is every 20 to 25 years, or as required by the official. So that is just the inspection. We're now making engineers speak with you when they do a fire escape inspection, and talk to you about what they want to do with that fire escape, and talk to you about the 50 to 75-year-old bolts, and talk to you about the connections into the wall. Because you only have two things that you want. You want a load test, or you want certified repairs in lieu of a load test, right? But somebody has to satisfy you, because to satisfy the conditions, depending upon the structural condition, that means every engineer touching any of your buildings, they have to call you and talk to you about what they found and send you photographs. So does any of this that we've talked about, this is just for the inspectors, is this enough information so that when you write a violation that an owner can get this very same document either faxed or emailed to them? Will this give them a clue as to what needs to be done? Does it tell them who they need to call? Does it tell them what guy they need to pick? Or does it just say, here's the general idea of what we're looking for? So this is general, so they can call any engineer they want out there, any engineer. And can they give this to their engineer? Because otherwise, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get what's called an opinion letter. Do you want opinion letters? Say, to the best of my information and knowledge, you believe the fire escape is good? Good? Yep.
The problem that we face here is not this. When we go structural, even though we can do all this and whatnot, in this city and the way it's written in Jersey and whatnot, this comes to anything structural goes to the fire subcode and whatnot. Now the subcode and whatnot, that is his jurisdiction. We can write it, but we don't have the total right to enforce what you're talking about, because the fire subcode does that in this city.
In regards to the inspection or the repairs?
In regards to the repairs, if it's structural, it goes to him. We make a recommendation to the fire subcode and whatnot that this is to be done, because he's in the building department.
Yes.
If he doesn't act on it, all we can do is put in the violation and whatnot, then the violation and whatnot goes to penalty. That's all that happens. If we don't have a penalty, right now, we don't have a penalty procedure of enforcement and whatnot. We don't go to court here, even though the code says and whatnot that the city and the fire department has the right to take the individual into court before the judge for enforcement of the violations that we write. And it stops at the fire subcode and whatnot.
I'm going to talk about the fire subcode right now, and by the way, if you're not satisfied, can you order a
Cisco,
load
hold on.
test?
That's not entirely correct, because it is a maintenance violation. And the fire code subcode, he will write certain specifications on the installation of fire protection.
100 pounds per square foot.
Right, but once it is installed and it is on the building, it's our responsibility for the maintenance. So what we are talking about now is maintenance inspections.
But I'm going to cover it, even on the maintenance side, you do need a permit, and I'll say, this is what we expect if you're going to repair it. In layman's terms, the city official is looking for a qualified licensed repair vendor, not a landscaper, okay, and to paint the fire escape and help his buddy out, to do all work under repair permits. So that brings in those guys. With engineer oversight, meaning, do you want to have a guy there that's got a big 5-story building working at whatever he wants and hiding all the stuff he wants, or do you want the engineer, who is the final guy signing off on this? Do you want him there at the beginning of the job, in the middle of the job, and at the end of the job? Or are you going to rely on you and the subcode official to go there and double check the work and make sure everything's cool? It's not their job. Their job is to see that the person who's pulling a permit is a licensed person that has liability and workers' comp, and they're done. And there's an initial permit pull, and there's a final that needs to happen. But by pulling a permit, and this what's called engineer oversight. Because do you want any fire escape that you are now avoiding a load test, because that's your guarantee, right? So you throw just nothing but load tests and you forget everything else. You said, I just want load tests. That's my guarantee. But the only other way that you can guarantee, because you're sort of saying no load test, but do you want somebody else's name on a piece of paper? Do you want them to have some oversight and some responsibility there?
Of course you do.
So you have to force these engineers, what's called engineer oversight, to be there at the initial stage of, because now these vendors are working off of their report. He has to spot check them in the middle as they're going along. Not when it's all done and painted and silicone shut, because you can hide a lot with silicone. And then at the very end, once this engineer has signed off a confidence test, who still needs to show up and sign off on that? The subcode official.
Right.
He pulled a permit. Who's the final one when all these people have eyeballed this thing to remove the violation?
That me. Then I remove. But what I'm saying is this and whatnot. At any point of that, when you're talking about structural or this or that, when the guy gonna pull a permit to do the work and whatnot for the repairs, he gotta also submit a plan down there to the fire subcode.
The engineer does.
Yeah, the engineer does.
Right.
When he submits the plans, the blueprints and whatnot, they have to go over it and what. They
Right.
have to go over it and whatnot, and all that has to be done. We're not getting that cooperation from them at all.
We know.
We're not getting
It's not
that.
a perfect system, but what's happening
We're
right
not
here,
getting that.
what I'm telling you is that because people have been using your violation, scrape and paint, they've been abusing it, and nobody's been pulling a permit. So will you allow any fire escape now to be certified without a repair permit? Will you allow any fire escape certificates just to show up at your desk, comes in the mail for some address that you wrote down the street, and the engineer never called you, never submitted a report to you? Right? If it comes in the mail, you say, hey, nice, in the mail. You can call the guy, say, hey, Jackson Engineering, yeah, I need a load test on that building. Why? It's satisfactory, yeah. You didn't follow any of our guidelines. And what I want to do is talk to you. I want to meet you down there. Let's talk about a load test on that fire escape. So because it's good now, I want to load test it. Oh, what do you mean? It says right there on the code. Depending upon the structural condition, I can order a load test. So let's go down there and meet. And you get down there, you see all rust still in the connections, all rust still in the treasure. Say, hey, let's load test this baby. I want you to load test. So tell the client you have to load test it now. And the guy's not, you know what that engineer's going to say? No, I'm not going to load test it. Because something might break. Something might fall. I said, dude, it can't. You told me it was certified. Do you understand? So you do have the power. So let's talk about what the repair. Now this does, because the client, you wrote a violation and you sent this to the client. The client can send this off to the vendor and to the inspector. So now this becomes a public document that you can use to make people aware. So let's tell you, I'm a landscaper, let's say, and I think I'm going to go help this guy fix his fire escape. And it says here, the city official is looking for a qualified licensed repair vendor. So am I qualified now that I'm a landscaper? No. To do all the work on the repair permit, I got to pull a repair permit. That means I need workers' comp and liability. How many painting guys have liability and workers' comp? They don't. With engineer oversight, oh, somebody's going to watch me? I got to pull the permit, but who's watching me? The engineer is oversight with repair criteria submitted for approval to the official, whether it's a subcode or you guys. They can't pull this permit until you've all agreed on the repair criteria, which includes what? Square head bolts. Reinforce them or replace them. And what about connections into the wall that you can't see? Verify them or duplicate them, whatever's cheaper to the client. But scrape and paint it? No more. And a lot of times you don't want any painting done on a fire escape until all the repairs are done and signed off. Because now you go into a fire escape, it's got nothing but blotchy brown primer everywhere of all the repairs. And it's very easy for you to find what they did repair and what they didn't repair that had the same problem. Like, hey, why'd you fix this side, but the other side of the tread's no good? It's got rust in it. I can see with my eyes. Let's see if the rest of it makes sense. All connections must be free of internal rust or rot, because don't forget this includes wood. Spot primed and sealed. How many people you know after they repair a connection on a fire escape ever sealed it with 50-year silicone? You know why they don't seal it with silicone? Because they need to bite that apple 5 years from now. Because if you leave it wide open, what's going to happen in it? It's going to rot again. But you seal it with 50-year silicone, what happens to that fire escape? How long before that connection breaks down again in its future? at least 50 years from now. So for the next 50 years on that building, he only has to paint it because he's never going to have a structural problem on that fire escape if he seals it. So we recommend sealing it. All worn material repaired and or replaced, so that means metal that's been eaten, you got to replace it. It's pretty clear here. All supports into the wall reinforced, repaired, or certified in a fire escape confidence test in lieu of a live load test. So we're telling him right here, that unknown into the building now, I don't care what it costs. You want to blow bricks out, you want to open up sheetrock, you want to drill next to it and put a little camera in there, or if it's faster, you drill a 3/4 hole with a hammer drill. You only have to drill it 8 to 12 inches deep, put an epoxy bolt there, and then make some sort of mechanical connection back to the original. And you just duplicated the connection. Now, do you care about what's inside that wall anymore? On the original one?
No.
Or you can just seal it and let sleeping dogs lie, right?
Right.
All right. All square bolts or rivets must be certified, reinforced, or replaced due to age in lieu of a live load test. So the only reason why, all square head bolts are 50 to 75 years old. All rivets are 75 to 100 years old. So you start seeing rivets, that's original hardware from the 1900s. That's how old the building is, and that's how old the fire escape is. So by the time you start seeing rivets, those were put in hot. Every single one of those was heated in a fire, thrown up to the guy up there who caught it in this little pan, takes that hot rivet with the pliers and sticks it in the hole, and then on both sides, one guy's smashing it on one side and the other guy's smashing it on the other side. One rivet at a time. So a lot of these riveted fire escapes were put together that day with hot rivets. They're 75 to 100 years old. Then somebody says, dude, we got bolts and nuts, man. Can we just get away from this fire?
Because they melt in the
Yeah, they melt. When you put them into a hole,
it's like a horseshoe.
there's a mushroom on one side and a shaft on the other side. You have to smash the shaft to create a stopper, like a nut to the back end. So you start smashing it and squishing it, and they're a pain to get out of a fire escape. Let's talk about the last piece of the puzzle, which is talking about Bridgeport. 50 people stuck on fire escapes. You know why? Because all ladders and cantilevers must be balanced and dropped 2 to 3 feet per second, which follows your code, which says must be single action requiring no special knowledge. It must hit the ground and stay down and must lead to a public way. All roof ladders must be secure. Isn't that for your firemen so they can get up there and fight the fire? No full painting of any fire escape until all spot painted repairs are inspected and certified under engineer oversight and city official permit sign-off. So, how many eyeballs we're now throwing onto these fire escapes? So now let's talk about the painting. Everybody's aware the EPA just came in 2010 and said, what about lead? Inside and outside.
Can't use it.
Can't burn on it. So can anybody burn lead? Can I go inside a building and start burning lead off like the way they used to do in the old days? Said no. So can I burn lead outside on a fire escape? Anything older than 1978 is presumed to have lead. So how many fire escapes you know are older than 1978?
All of them.
All of them. So they all have lead. Here's the beauty. 98% of every fire escape you guys have is bolted. Only a few of them are welded, and the reason why welds don't last very long is because as rust gets in there, they just snap all these welds. But on bolts, a bolt will scream for 10 to 15 years before it finally gives way. So with that being said, how are we going to fix fire escapes? Not with welded, because that's what a lot of these guys did. The only way is by changing the bolts. So you're going to you get to a job site and you see a guy welding a fire escape, what's the first thing you do? You stop him because the law is very clear. First of all, they must be a licensed renovator to touch a fire escape. You know how you get your renovator's license? It's an 8-hour course. It costs you anywhere from $175 to $275. And any company goes to it, and in that 8-hour course, they teach you how to wear the white suit, how to wear the mask, put the little gloves. And in 8 hours, they told you how to collect the chips and how to, put the signs on the window so children don't get the lead chips, and how not to weld on fire escapes. They don't just cover in that 8-hour course fire escapes, they cover interior repairs so that you now have to be a licensed renovator to touch anything that has lead. And that says it right there. In layman's terms, the city official is looking for a painter vendor, EPA certified renovator to do all the work as per EPA guidelines due to the fact that all fire escapes older than 1978 are presumed to have lead. unless identified as no lead by a licensed lead inspector. So an inspector from the city, a private inspector, lead inspector, can go there and say, hey, I've tested the fire escape, there's no lead, or there's low lead, enough that you don't have to do any with any of the CPA stuff. Entire building will be notified with signage, and all precautions shall be taken to collect paint chips at grade with that plastic. No sandblasting or power-assisted scraping without full fire escape encapsulation. So nobody's sandblasting fire escapes. It's cheaper to remove the fire escape than it is to sandblast it, and all the fight to, create a vacuum to sandblast a 75-year-old fire escape. Nobody would do it. It's cheaper just to replace the fire escape if you get that far. All escapes should be painted every 3 to 5 years, or fully painted every 5 to 10, or as identified by the official. Now, this all sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is just to identify what you guys now need to do, and what you're expecting from the engineers, the vendors who fix them, and the vendors who paint them, right? And this is also what you send to everybody you write a violation. Have somebody here either fax or email this, and I'll send you the Word document, this chief, and you can take all this crap out of the top. You don't have to have National Fire Escape up here. I think I made you one where I put your website over here, I put your information over here, so this is an easily modified document so that it can be used by the municipality.
Just go that code you got down to the bottom there where you got 1028.6.
Yeah.
It's actually in our code F603.2.
Okay. We took this from the previous activity that we've done with you guys, but that's an easy thing to change. But does it say the exact same thing or no?
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, just
They changed
international. This came from the state code. We're using the international code now. The international code is F603.2.
That's an easy one. But as I mentioned before,
603.2.
you can also take this very same information and you can copy and paste what I just wrote in here. Okay, you can just copy and paste this and send it in an email to anybody. And they're like, hey, what do I have to do? You don't have to send them this document. We just made this as a departmental procedure. It's a very general document. But you can just come in here and because it is a Word document, just highlight this, drop it into an email to the engineer that's giving you a hard time. But otherwise, we're here to say, here's the 3 people that are going to get involved. Now, here's the problem. 75 years it took to basically ignore fire escapes. And that's because 50 years ago, guess what? These fire escapes weren't falling down. They were built to last, but not more than 75 years. Guess what year we're in? The 75th plus year, if not the 85th year, if not the 90th year. So the reason why a lot of these fire escapes went and got to the point where they are today is simply because 25 to 50 years ago, we weren't having problems with them. Today we're having problems with them. So now, this is an ignored fact. It's falling upon you guys, because a lot of times in the United States, building departments are not doing their job of keeping up with this stuff. Fire departments are not doing their job either, because it was the bastard child of egress. It's outside, nobody cared about it. You never used it. It's like a parachute in a plane, you know. When you pull it out and check it, and unroll it and make sure everything's good, you don't. So everybody just got real, but now age has finally caught up, and that's where you are right now. But here's a problem. You're going to get 2 kinds of things when you start writing all your beautiful violations out there. You're going to get feedback or fight back. What do you think you guys are going to get right away?
Fight back. Right? We can get fight back.
So here's the thing that you must understand, that all you're doing, and we have the tags, and let's talk about the tags right now.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Can you just explain to me what the load test consists of?
Sure. Simple load test. And I'm going to go, hey, let's use this photograph.
Years ago, a load test was they come in with a bag of sand or something of a certain weight and drop it on the fire escape and see if it would stay there.
Yep. Well, it's all fire escapes then and today need to meet 100 pounds per square foot. So if I have a 3x5 platform, is that roughly a 3x5 over there? See all those guys up there? You can tell how old this picture is. This is a great shot, but is that roughly a 3x5 platform? Plus minus. That's 15 square feet. Times 100 pounds. The engineer back then and the engineer today has to make that so that I can put 1,500 pounds of sand, lead, bricks, not people, yet. And it'll hold that load. So 1,500 pounds I can put in a 3x5 square. And it won't pull away from. I can put anything I want. I can put water there, sand, lead, and I got to do it for about 30 minutes. That's a load test.
Okay.
All right. So and it's very expensive now to move around 1,500 pounds to the next platform, and then also on all the treads. So that's why load tests are very costly, because you're moving around a lot of lead and a lot of weight. And you know what it looks like when it passes, right? Does anybody know what it looks like when it fails? How do you stop 1,500 pounds from going? You don't. It just destroys everything on its way down. So load testing has never been a popular activity, but verifying that it's ready for a load test is cheaper and safer. But let's take a look at these guys, right? The average fireman fighting a fire, if he's a 200-pound man, he's got 100 pounds of gear, 300 pounds. So, you know how big a fireman is with 300 pounds total, tanks, whatever. And I have 1,500 pounds that I can put in a 3x5. Can I fit a 300 pound, can I put 5 fully dressed firemen into a 3x5 square?
Yeah.
You'll fit them in?
When you said 5 times it's 300 pounds.
No, 5 firemen. 5 fully loaded firemen
No.
in this little square. Can you get all these guys to hang out and have a cup of coffee on that one platform?
No.
Now, take a 150-pound person average. I need 10 of those people in a 3x5 in order for that thing, and it'll hold. Can I ever get 10 people in a 3x5? No. So these things were overbuilt. They're built beyond whatever the capacity is. Most of your platforms and decks on the back of your house are only built to 60 pounds per square foot. Fire escapes are built to 100 pounds. Okay, so that's what a load test is. So you're either performing live load tests, and he said many firemen here in Newark have performed a live load test and died when that gave way. Well, let's see another fireman that gave way. This happened in Boston. This won a Pulitzer Prize winning photograph. Okay, 1972. He survived. You know how he survived?
He grabbed the ladder.
He grabbed the ladder with one hand. She didn't make it though. And her niece, her 8-year-old niece that was visiting, she survived because she landed on her aunt. So this is what typically happens out there. Now, let's get back to the story of you guys are going to get either feedback, beautiful feedback, thanks for making us safer here in Newark, or you're going to get fight back that says, dude, I can't afford my mortgage payment, I can't afford this, I can't afford that, and now you bring me this fire escape problem. Well, it's an issue that needs to be resolved. So let's take a look at some immediate answers that you can have for anything that has that is a life safety issue or a fire escape that needs to be repaired and somebody doesn't want to spend either $5,000 or $10,000. First of all, we're just trying to identify all the fire escapes. And you guys see all these tags that we have here? During your normal inspections from now on, every time you hit a building, you are only authorized to put out a yellow or a red. A yellow tag, which has only your information, your city information, is not telling them what's wrong with the fire escape. It's just saying that the fire escape doesn't have a certificate on it and it doesn't look safe. It has deterioration, needs a paint job. If you put a red on it, that means it's got dangling treads. Okay? Can you put a white one? No. Only structural engineers can put a white one because they're putting their name, their signature, their license on the white ones that says it's a certified fire escape. So every time you're going out there, you're identifying fire escape for the next 3 to 5 years. You guys are going to basically identify the condition of a fire escape. And does it have or does it not have a tag? That's all. Yes?
Now, once we red tag or anybody red tag a fire escape, now you have what you have essentially done is created an imminent hazard.
Yes.
Because you don't have that second means of egress. Okay.
I'm going to cover that. So, red means that you got dangling treads. First thing you can order is fire watch. Right?
Yeah.
Vacate the building. Yeah, but now you got a bunch of people in there and some handicapped people. You got all these stories. All the stories are going to come out. So let me get you some immediate answers for somebody who's got an imminent danger. It's a red one, and they don't have the money to deal with anything. Can you, let's take a typical residential house, back of the backyard, the fire escape's on the back side, and the dangling treads. First of all, can you order immediate repairs to the fire escape done by a qualified vendor? So it's an ornamental iron worker. That's a qualified vendor. It's an ornamental iron worker with engineer oversight who's going to tell them exactly what to fix. And can he put the tread back and check to see if any of the treads are ready to go? With engineer oversight, can you do emergency repairs to make the fire escape functional, not certifiable? With engineer oversight. Okay? So that will take a $25,000 fire escape down to a $5,000 repair, as an example. Okay? And with engineer oversight, now, do you remove the violation when you just make it functional? No. So the violation stays. You've given the owner 30 days, 60 days to work it out with them what they're going to do next because they got a $25,000 problem on their hands. And they're going to claim that they're under bankruptcy or they have foreclosure. You name the scenario, they're going to tell you. So now you have the fire escape repairs. They said, I don't even have $5,000. I said, great. Can I take, from a local scaffolding company, can I get for 30 days an average scaffolding tower, which is, 3 to 5 stories, for about $1,000 a month? With staircases inside?
Probably can.
Okay, so now you say, okay, I have a choice. You got an imminent hazard here. I'm either going to put a fire watch here, or I'm going to vacate the building, or I'm going to order scaffolding that you're going to pay for. And the scaffolding now will get people out of this building while we basically mothball your fire escape until we figure out what we're going to do. Does that help? Temporarily buy some time that you guys always need. You always need time, right? Can you put some emergency scaffolding up?
I believe we could, with the approval of the building department.
Exactly.
Right.
And with an engineer oversight. So
Yeah.
there's all these things coming into play because you're just trying to work with these people, because this is a 75-year-old problem that everybody's been ignoring. You're not going to fix it overnight. But who is this red tag and yellow tag for? If I live in that building and I got a yellow tag, right, on my fire escape, what do I do with my rent to the owner? If I go there and read this tag and it says the fire escape has deficiencies?
You don't pay him.
So I'm going to start holding. So that's a little bit of pressure on whoever owns that building. If it's a red one, it says the fire escape is out of service. I'm going to pick up my phone and say, because you guys are already dealing with the red ones anyway, with life safety issues. The yellow ones are basically a line in the sand. Now, in the middle of the night, there's a fire. The firemen show up, and you guys know this story, right? All the gray-haired guys in this building, because of the firemen that you've lost, have told all the new guys who are fighting the fires, in case of fire, don't use the fire escape. Okay? But let's say in the middle of the night, they get there, and they see a yellow, a red, or a white. So if a guy gets there and he sees white tags on a fire escape, can they get on it and use it and get in, get out on the same fire escape?
Yes.
But if they get there and they see a yellow one, are they still going to go back and get their ladder? Yeah, they have all the right to, because it's a yellow, it's not a white. And if they see a red, they're going to get on it at all?
No.
So for your guys that are fighting the fire, isn't this an identification program? For the safety of your firemen only, and the safety of the occupants to know what condition, so that they don't have a false idea of what's going on with their fire escape. That fire escape has a yellow or a red, let the tenants know. In case of fire, don't get out on these things because the tag says so. Now, when you're walking around and you're putting these tags on, because that's what's going to happen. I could be at this building, turn around and see a fire escape there. I have 25 of each color in my car.